On the lighting, I'm just a lighting nut in that I've been studying lighting for years. Come right on in if they want. There's a couple chairs right back there. That'd be great. There was a movie a few years ago called A Walk in the Clouds. I had Keanu Reeves. It was kind of a real chick flick type of movie, but I went with my friend to see that. She liked the movie real well. I'm watching the movie. It had great lighting. It had great lighting, and especially they would do a lot of things early in the morning with the light coming from the east and the afternoon from the west. It gave beautiful lighting. Lighting would be hitting the back of their hair, and the camera's over here, and you're looking into Keanu Reeves' eyes, and I'd see this beautiful glow coming through the hair, and then they would have a reverse angle shot where they're shooting over the young lady's shoulder, and they're looking into Keanu Reeves, and he had this beautiful glow from the evening sun coming through his hair, and then they would switch back to her. They'd have the beautiful glow coming through her hair, and I'm going, wait a second. I start talking to my friend beside me. I said, that can't be right. The evening sun can only come from one direction. All of a sudden, we think it's coming from the west. Then we turn the other way, and now the sun's coming from the east and lighting up the hair. I said, that's wrong. That can't be. And will you just shut up and watch the movie? I said, what? We can't do that. That's wrong lighting. I mean, it looks great because 99% of the people wouldn't be stupid like me and pay attention to where the light's coming from. But I said, light can only come from one direction at a time. But it made it look nice. That's why they did it. But after a while, you start to look at light. Where's light coming from? Exposure. Exposure. Basically, the light, one thing's determining where it comes from, but now next, how light or dark is the image that you're going to be producing. And the light, how light or how dark. Just like I mentioned a minute ago, the light hitting me, there's a certain exposure on my face. If it was sunny out, the exposure, the brightness outside is a lot brighter than the light that's hitting my face. So the camera's trying to get the correct exposure for outdoors, not me. Not me. So you want to look how light or dark is an image. Basically, a lot of what you're going to be filming people. The only thing we care about is the exposure on their face. Everything else is secondary. Everything else is way down the line. But we want the face. We want to be able to see the face. We don't want the face in shadows. We don't want it lit with half sunlight, half shadows. We want good quality lighting on the face. That's what's really important. Pardon me a second. It's definitely Monday morning. So every time as a photographer, I look through a camera, whether I'm shooting video or shooting still photography, I'm looking at these three things. I'm analyzing, I'm evaluating composition, lighting, and exposure. I'll bring that up and I'll figure out, I know the other morning, the young lady I was photographing, I had some nice plants and flowers in the background, and I got the camera ready, and I said, okay, we need you to move over here. I tell you, let's have you seated, because I'm looking at the composition. I want the flowers coming over the right shoulder, because it worked real well with the blouse that she had on. I want this tree in the background. If I shoot a little bit lower, I can avoid that real bright hot spot coming between the trees. So right off the bat, I looked at composition. And then I looked at lighting. Well, I'd like the light coming into her face from this angle because I had the sun coming from the back to light up her hair. So I had to figure out, I had a light, I had a flash, excuse me, outside. I wanted the flash to come in from this particular angle through an umbrella. So I placed it there. Then I did some test shots. And I popped off. I'm going, oop, the light's too hot. Means it's too bright. Her face was getting washed out. So I had to make some mechanical adjustments to get my light down until the exposure on her face looked very nice and natural. Now I had light from the sun hitting her hair, lighting her hair up, looked really nice, but now I had light from over here at this angle coming through and lighting up her face. And then I had to tell her, hey, your hair right here, you know, because a lot of you guys wear your hair like it covers up an eye, so you only look out of one eye all the time, but it's there. And I said, that's going to really cast a shadow into your eye because the light's going to hit that hair. It's going to even cast more of a shadow. So we just had her pull her hair back from her eye a little bit so I wouldn't have the shadow. So the whole time I'm doing that, This is what I'm doing, but I do it automatically. But I'm analyzing composition, lighting, and exposure. So when I took the picture, I'm going, oh, yes, that looks great. And I run over and Mom's there. I said, Mom, look at this. That is killer. And Mom's going, oh, my baby, that looks great. And I'm showing the young lady, oh, I like that one. And then I do that again on another shot. Oh, my gosh, that's great. How are we going to pick? Oh, I think you should order all of them. So, so I'm selling the whole time. But, I want them to look at the composition, the lighting, the exposure, the pose, so forth, and because I want them to get excited about the shots, and they were very nice shots. I created them. That's what I'm hired to do. I'm a professional, but I'm doing this automatically. So those are the three biggies that you'll need to know. Okay, the viewfinder. Let's go over this part. So you had your lens, okay, and then the viewfinder we just talked about. If you're looking through the viewfinder, and I'm going to use that word synonymously with the monitor, because you might be looking at the monitor, it's the same thing. Now, we talked about composition, lighting, and exposure. It does one other thing. When you look at the monitor or viewfinder in your camera, it's going to provide you with very important information about the operation of the camera and or the recorder. If it's a video camera and that what we call a camcorder, you're going to be recording. And there's important information in there. When we look at that, there's going to be, here's a biggie right here, record and pause. Real important information, because you could haul out all this junk out there, you could set it up on a tripod, you get everything right. If it does not say record or REC, you just wasted your time. You've got to make sure on that viewfinder, you see the person in the background, you're looking at them with the lighting, composition, exposure, but there's also important information that's graphically on the screen. So you got to make sure the record button's going and the numbers are turning. When I go down to film the mayor once a week for his little special that he does, or the superintendent, and that I get them all set up and I hit that button and I stare right at it and I'm looking, record, 1, 2, 3, 4. I make sure it's recording, because I don't want to be a doofus and come back later and go, oh, I forgot to hit the record button. That can happen. That can happen. So that's one little piece of information. Another one, tape. Is there tape in the camera? Is there tape in that, or is there a card? I wish we had all newer cameras that record everything to an SD card. We do not. We have not been able to afford those yet. I'm hoping we can get them at some time soon. But you have to have some type of a format, a medium, to record the information. And yours is going to be on a tape. Anybody else think when they're taping, so what's some important information you would need to know? Anybody? Yes? You wait? What else might it say that's really important? All of a sudden, they're recording somebody really important, and this was in the movie True Lies. Ever see the movie True Lies with Arnold, Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis? No, too old for you? Okay, great movie. Anyway, this guy, terrorist, is recording this other terrorist making a speech. He's got the camera up there, and he's partway through the speech, and all of a sudden it starts flashing. Battery, 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 the battery's low. And this guy's starting to sweat and freak out because he knows that the other guy's going to kill him because he didn't have the battery charged. So that's another important piece of information. When you look at the camera, in fact, the camera I have back here, it tells me that I have 1 hour and 9 minutes of battery life left on there. So, you need to, pay attention to this. Or tape in the camera, the battery power. They have a tape counter. If you look as you're taping, all of a sudden you'll hit the record and you'll see the numbers start moving. And they will electronically record these numbers right onto the tape or right onto your SD card. Those numbers are there. So later you can be looking at something and you say, yeah, you log it in, I was filming it, and at the 2 minute and 45 second mark, that's the information that I need. It runs from 2 minutes 45 to 3:12. So there's numbers. So a tape counter. And you can see this right on that screen, and right behind all that information is the composition, lighting, exposure, what you're actually filming. But you need to pay attention to this stuff to make sure that the camera's working properly. We have something called DEW, D-E-W, DEW. What's DEW mean? What D-E-W? Forget about cameras. Anybody know what the DEW is? What's it like at your house? You walk outside early in the morning. No? Boy, it is morning for you. On the grass, dew. You walk, not Mountain Dew, but when you go outside early morning and it's kind of cold out and you end up, the grass is all wet from the dew, the condensation. Well, it means the same thing here. You could be filming with the camera, or let's say you take the camera home, you leave it in the car overnight where it gets nice and cold, and then all of a sudden you walk into a real warm building and you've got a tape right away and you pull it out, and all of a sudden it will start flashing dew, dew, dew. That means that you have moisture on the inside of your camera because you left it outside in the car, which you were not supposed to do. And you can't do anything until the camera's had a chance to warm up, that condensation has had a chance to evaporate, then you can operate the camera. Well, that might take 20 or 30 minutes. Or you might have to open it up, get a blow dryer, and just blow some warm air to the inside to evaporate that. But the camera's protecting itself. Electronics and liquids don't go together, moisture. So it has this little warning, and it will flash that, and the camera will turn off because it knows it has too much moisture on the inside. So there's a bunch of important information that's going to be in the viewfinder that is more than just the composition, lighting, and exposure. So you have to pay attention to this stuff, and then you have to pay attention to the actual scene, the people, the composition, and so forth that you're recording. And the last one we're going to go over today is the imaging device. The imaging device, so we have lens, viewfinder or monitor, and the imaging device. This is where the magic happens. The imaging device converts light. Remember, the lens takes in light, raw light, and it changes it into a video signal. It's the little electronic device that actually does that. It's located inside the camera body. It's behind the lens. You can't get to it. You do not, excuse me, you do not have access to it, but it's inside the camera, and all the cameras have them. And I'm going to mention both of these, even though there's only one type that is used today. We had two different types of imaging devices. The old type is called a tube. It's called a tube, so they talk about them being a tube camera. And the only thing I can describe as a tube, because you're too young, you were not around in the days of TVs and television tubes, but they're little vacuum tubes. It's similar to, it looks like a little light bulb, but it would have a lot of different, let's say, filaments in it. And this is the device that actually used to change the light into a video signal in the old days. When you walk in the studio, as you're going in the little hallway before you get to the control room and studio, you'll see a couple big orange cameras there. They're called Ikegami is the name of the camera. Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company gave us those several years ago because they were getting rid of them. They're an old tube camera. When they were brand new, those cameras cost $45,000. Very expensive. And in their day, which was maybe 25 years ago, they were very good cameras. But now they're nothing more than a paperweight. I can't even sell them on eBay. Nobody wants them. They got a beautiful glass lens, but they're ancient history. Nobody wants that. So what we use today is called a CCD. CCD, this is what is used in most video cameras today. I never say everyone. Almost everything I say is most, because they come up with some bizarre things and some new technology all the time, and they very well could have some different things other than the CCD. But most everybody's using something called the CCD. That stands for charged coupled device. And if I take a look, I don't know if I still have one of my boxes over here or not. Used to have a box for the camera. I've got one up there. Nope. Yeah, maybe here. Let's see if this says anything on it. Sometimes it'll even say on the outside. This one says 3 CCD. So when I, just by looking at the camera, when I'm looking online for a camera, and then I'm looking for certain things, and this says that this is a CCD camera, charged coupled device, and it says 3. It doesn't say 1, it says 3. So, all this is, it's not complicated at all. It's a microchip, it's a computer. That's all. So when the microchips came in, that changed everything with video. So actually inside the camera is a little microchip, and the surface of it contains thousands and thousands of pixels. And CCDs might be maybe a third of an inch or a half an inch. Little tiny, tiny, tiny small things. And the surface contains thousands of pixels. You're familiar with pixels with your photography, and where they talk about a 10 megapixel camera, a 12 megapixel camera, which means it has 10 million pixels that makes up the image, or 12 million pixels that make up the image. So the surface of that CCD has thousands of little pixels, and each pixel interprets light. So light comes in and hits this one and hits this one and hits this one, and the pixel interprets it. It says, some of them it's how light, how dark is it, the exposure. Other ones for color. Is this red? Is this blue? Is this green? Is this a combination of all of those? It's interpreting the color. So each pixel, the light hits it, it interprets it. And then the more of these, the more pixels, the better the resolution. That means it looks sharper. It looks sharper. The quality is better. The picture is better. If you even think of your little cameras that you work with. How about your phone? And that some of you that have a phone, you take pictures on your phone, and it might be just a 2.5 megapixel camera or a 5. Has anybody ever taken their phone and you say, oh man, I want to make an 8x10 print, and you print that and you take a look at the quality? It doesn't look too good in most cases, as opposed to your actual camera that might be a 10 megapixel or 12 or 17, whatever it might be. Because the more pixels you have, just like in here, the more pixels that are recorded, that's interpreting light, the better it's going to be. The quality's better, the resolution's better, the color's better. So if we have, let's say if we have this one that has 480,000 pixels, that's really good. How about if we have two more? 480,000, 480,000, 480,000. Now you've got all these pixels that are interpreting light. Makes a big difference. Let me stop there. Why don't we take a break? And we'll finish this up, and that'll be enough on notes today.